answer. My question goes to the land board. And we have a governor that ran on resource development, specifically coal development, clean coal development, which does not exist. It will not exist in the next 20 years. We have a lot of pressure from the right to develop Otter Creek, which is state lands. I'd like to know if I'm looking at somebody that's willing to stand on the land board and say no to coal.
Anyone want to go first?
I'm not going to stand on the land board and say no to coal. What I am going to say is show me that coal can be done in an environmentally sensitive way so that we're not producing additional greenhouse gases, and then I'll go along with it. And I'm not sure that can happen. As far as Otter Creek, I mean, I've answered that question I don't know how many times, and I'm sure these guys have too. I don't see it being developed in our lifetime. Now, if you're going to sit on the land board, we have a responsibility to not only bring in revenue for the schools, but we have to be good stewards of the land. As far as Otter Creek is concerned, there's a resource there. It has some value, but the value is only if it's going to get developed, and it's got a checkerboard ownership. There's no infrastructure in place. There's no power plant, no transmission lines. There's no railroad. There's nothing. And so you have to go through a whole permitting process to put any of that in. And I think in the regulatory environment in which we live, where greenhouse gases, and people are very aware of that, global warming, people are very aware of that, it's going to be difficult to get those things passed. I know what they're saying out there. I know what the Republicans are saying. I'm not going to stand up and say no. But by God, I'm going to make sure it gets done right. And by that, I mean I'm going to be a good steward of the land, and I'm going to be a good steward of the environment. And my guiding principle is going to be the constitutional part that says we're entitled to a clean and healthful environment. That's going to be mine. You can count on it.
Jim, I do think that the analysis starts with the constitutional guarantee of a clean and healthful environment. As Mike stated, I certainly think there are those infrastructure questions that pose a very substantial roadblock to the Otter Creek development. But frankly, I think there's an additional analysis about what the impact can be on groundwater. Got to make sure we're not ruining an agricultural sector to benefit energy development. So again, I won't make a blanket statement of no coal fuel, but I think as Attorney General, I'm obligated constitutionally and personally to undergo a very thoroughgoing analysis of that kind of an issue. And I think Otter Creek has substantial problems, as has been alluded to earlier.
Probably won't get much disagreement. You know, in large, the thing that struck me a little bit with your question, because this is a question that we get all over. You know, right now, the checkerboarded fashion, the fact that there's no lines of transportation anyway, I'd be not fulfilling my constitutional obligation to maximize the value if it was leased out anyway, because it'd be leased out for a heck of a lot less than you could, even if I wanted it. It's interesting. What struck me about the question, which I haven't heard in the past, is, you know, in the next 20 years, there will never be anything, any value or use for this coal in an environmentally safe fashion. If there was, it'd be wonderful. The way that technology moves, maybe we will figure out something. And maybe not, Jim. And if not, well, then I think that there's enough pressures, because I'm not sure where you're ultimately, unless you want to ship it all the way to China, you're going to be using the coal. You know, I think that we're finally wising up a little bit in that respect. So I don't see any, I mean, I know that somebody had submitted the lease application to the state, and it would take about 9 months or a year to even look at that. Everything I see, as long as we have a solid land board, I don't see the development occurring anytime real soon at all. That's not to say that it won't ultimately occur.
All right, so I'm going to get in trouble if I don't stop this soon from some people, but I just wanted to say thank you. Just like Mr. Dayton did, I I moved here from Idaho 2 years ago where I was an assistant district attorney, and I left my job to run a statewide campaign for Attorney General for a Democrat. In the state of Idaho currently right now, unfortunately, that means we lost. And so I know what each of these three men has done, not only for themselves and for their family to be here tonight and to run these campaigns, second mortgages and everything else. And so on behalf of myself and everyone in this room, thank you for doing this and for being willing to serve all of us. So, thank you.